emotional memories.
Well, biggest thing we can actually say is that what a wonderful person, you know, especially this community. I would say that the community would not be the same without Carolyn's impact and influence for everything that we have. A lot of people don't realize that a lot of little things that we have in Scott City and the growth that we have in Scott City is because of Carolyn. And at the same time, believe it or not, Carolyn and George. Because it's hard to say Carolyn without saying George too. As much as we know, as far as Carolyn and George being the odd couple, and one being almost like left brain, one being the right brain. And at days, I can imagine, as far as the family, and I've seen it before, is trying to get in between the two of them. Would be like oil and vinegar. Meeting Carolyn for the first time when I actually moved to Scott City, all I can say is I was actually given a warm welcome, reception, and a knowledge of the community and the kindness of a soul that actually loved her community itself. Along with George telling jokes and enjoying his own Miss Kentucky, even though that actually was a Wildcat fan, but the other Wildcat fan, we had a good pun on that one. But they both had pride in the community. They both gave, and they both were wanting to teach others about what the community was about. Carolyn, over time, getting to know her, she had actually pulled me into the community, whether it was the chamber, whether it was the historical preservation. She would always tell me about the garden club and about all the other things that she would actually like to accomplish and do in the community. From that, I actually gained, as I said, a great respect. She started to develop the idea that she wanted to have a museum. She would always go, "Paul, we need to find a building that we can actually put a museum in. And do you have one?" I said, "No." And then she'd start listing off all these other ideas and suggestions and places, and with a little innocence, I would actually tell her point blank, "I don't think that'll be possible." And if you know Carolyn, she would actually say, "It's possible. I'll make it possible." So eventually in time, we'd gotten a old schoolhouse from the Albrights. And talking about the impossible, we ended up getting the whole community involved, along with Worley Jackson and everyone else, even AMRA and UE, to actually move that old schoolhouse about 3 miles. And it was not the greatest road. It was not the greatest path to get there, but we got there. We ended up having to put people up on the building with little poles to push up the electric lines and everything. I mean, you're just looking at things and you're going, how in the world are we going to do that? We did it. Over the time, Carolyn had actually and George had hired some people, since we didn't really have much of a budget, hired some people out of their own money to actually fix the building. They even got old planks created by Willie and Kelso to actually match up the wood and everything. It was it was an amazing task. Carolyn was asking if I had any students that I could actually help out. So I had some students that actually needed money, and they'd more than welcome to help out. We eventually got the old schoolhouse set up for the museum. She was very proud. She was in detail, trying to get all the people together. During that same time, just a little bit before then, she was also excited about the caboose, as far as the kids that actually lived in the boxcars and the caboose itself. and she went through a whole big series of lectures and research about the children that lived in the train boxcars. And it was amazing stories that she would actually tell us. But going back to the schoolhouse, right before we started to open the schoolhouse, unfortunately, we had a fire. And I think that was one of the turning points for Carolyn and both George. It was almost like, here you have these energetic individuals that had a lot of energy, had a lot of dedication to the community, and put a lot into it. And for Carolyn, it was more or less, her focus was that schoolhouse and the love of what she was able to do. The night that that schoolhouse was actually on fire, I was out there with her and George, and she said, "Oh, Paul, I don't think I can do it anymore." It just seemed like her life was just taken away at that moment. And I just told her, well, give it a little time. Eventually things will happen. Just don't give up. There's a lot more to it than what we think. I think over that time, after she got over that, I think she started to come back, and she started to think things a little bit more in a focused viewpoint of what she can accomplish with what she can do with what she has. I know over time she was also giving some volunteer work to the CASA, along with doing reading programs to a lot of the schools, St. Joe's, and even to the Scott City School. This individual had a lot of heart. This individual had a lot of things to give to kids, to people, and a lot of knowledge. I know a lot of times people would actually meet Carolyn for the first time or see Carolyn and they just go, "What's this lady about?" Because sometimes her ideas are out there, sometimes her ideas were just things that you just wouldn't even think about. But she had dreams, and she had goals, and she had ideas, and she had willingness to give. So at this time, I would like to do, aside from, this tree is just amazing. That says Carolyn right there. If it was a Charlie Brown Christmas tree, it would still say Carolyn, okay? What I like to do is pass the mic over to, whether it's family, whether it's other people that actually know Carolyn, have known Carolyn over the years, memories that you might have had or like to share, please do. Anyone.